Hi everyone, we'll get started just in the interest of time. Thank you so much for joining our seminar online and in person. I'm first going to begin by reading our school's land acknowledgement. We humbly acknowledge that Johns Hopkins University is located on the traditional and contemporary homelands of Indigenous people. Our campus resides on unceded lands of the Piscataway and Susquehannock peoples. We recognize the enduring presence of more than 7,000 Indigenous peoples in Baltimore City, including Piscataway, Lumbee, Eastern Band of Cherokee, and many others represented by our Indigenous students, faculty, staff, and local Indigenous agency partners. Together, we acknowledge the history of genocide and ongoing systematic inequities that have impacted Indigenous intergenerational traumas and health disparities. We give thanks to the past, present, and future stewards of this land and recognize tribal nation sovereignty and right to self-determination based on past and present treaty rights. We aim to hold ourselves in the university community accountable to advancing tribal health equity. So my name is Chelsea Richardson, and I am an enrolled member of the Hallawasaponi tribe in Hollister, North Carolina, a descendant from the Nansemond Indian Nation in Virginia, and a descendant from the Pipil tribe of Santa Ana, El Salvador, with Mayan roots. Along with my other DSA members, Emma Wallengren, Lauren Klein, and Deepti Rao, we have invited Ms. Sophia Taula-Lieras from the Center for Indigenous Health. I am honored to work with her on the Lego Spirit project, supporting Sophia's engagement with domestic and international Indigenous partners. As a DSA rep for our department and a fellow Indigenous student, I felt inviting Sophia to speak at our department seminar would provide an important perspective that is often hard to incorporate into our work due to the large disconnect between public health and Indigenous peoples perpetrated by historical and modern day context. I hope this presentation empowers everyone here to engage with Indigenous peoples in respectful, reciprocal, and mutually beneficial ways as we continue our public health work. In a world of doom and gloom, I also hope this presentation demonstrates the amazing strides that Indigenous communities have made internationally and uplifting future generations by reclaiming our traditional health and lifestyle practices. Before Sophia begins her presentation, I also just want to acknowledge Dr. David Page, who's here with us today, whose hall we usually meet in for our department seminar. I want to briefly highlight his monumental health and nutrition research contributions to the Navajo Nation during his time as the Chief of Community Health Service at the Navajo Indian Reservation Clinic. He helped ensure Navajo women, infants, and children received adequate nutrition to support growth and development, which ultimately led to his role in developing what we now know as the Federal Nutrition Program, WIC. So without further ado, please give a warm welcome to today's highly anticipated guest speaker, Ms. Sophia Taula-Lieras.
Well, good morning and good afternoon to you all, and thank you for joining me today. I'd like to thank Chelsea for inviting me to be in community with you all today. I admire Chelsea for many reasons, not the least of which is her aspiration to become an OBGYN. And when she does accomplish that, because she will, Chelsea will be the first Indigenous OBGYN I have ever known. And I almost cried when we were doing her intern interview when she shared that. But I held it together because, professionalism. But I also admire Chelsea because she's clearly mastered the art of the seminar invite. So after saying she would be honored to have me share about our project and about the Center for Indigenous Health, she said, and I quote, "As we are well aware, the Indigenous perspective is often left out of public health, and Indigenous groups are often left out of most research projects presented to our department." Now, I don't know about any of you, but no self-respecting young elder like myself can turn down an invite when presented like that. I would most definitely get the side eye from my ancestors if I turned down a storytelling request. And it's Native American Heritage Month. So well done, Chelsea. Thank you for inviting me or voluntelling. I'm so happy to be here. And I joke because humor is both a shared language across this global family that we're building and growing. And it's so essential to the healing happening at many levels in this beautiful work. So I also mention our ancestors because they are present in every person and component of this work and truly are where we get our storytelling abilities. This spirit movement is full of storytellers, and we all understand the importance of representation, and not just any representation, accurate representation, layered, complex representation, and joyful representation, which Chelsea spoke to earlier. So thank you to the PFRH department for this opportunity to share stories on behalf of the Spirit Collective, of which I am just one voice of many. So Chelsea did the land acknowledgement from Hopkins, and I'll just add that I'm grateful to be joining you from the Nisenan and Maidu lands, the ancestral and present-day caretakers of the area I call home in Northern California. I'd be surprised if this was the first land acknowledgement you've experienced today, and I certainly hope it is not the last. I begin with these photos here to share both the visual beauty of some of the lands that we've had the incredible privilege of playing on because of this movement, and also to give gratitude to the incredible community, which this isn't even everybody. We're talking, close to 200 people across the world connected to this work. But these are the folks that we are honored to call our collaborators, our partners, our friends, and really our family over these last few years. And you'll get to hear directly from them. I have a couple of videos to share because it certainly shouldn't just be my voice that you're hearing today. And so these are group photos from each of our annual in-person gatherings. This one here to the left is from just this past July in British Columbia, Canada. The one at the top on the right is from August 2024, where we joined together in Bantua, Australia. And this one on the bottom is from our very first gathering to kick off our project in July of 2023 on Navajo Nation here in the United States. So please enjoy these beautiful photos of this spirit family and know that I carry each of them in my heart as I share about them today, because they really are what make this magical work a real living, breathing experience. Couple things I hope to cover today. A little bit about myself and the journey that brought me to Spirit. Chelsea mentioned that is helpful and interesting to people to hear how folks get to where they are in their careers. I'm going to do an overview of the Johns Hopkins Center for Indigenous Health here at the School of Public Health, and also the Family Spirit Home Visiting Program. I'll take us into how the Spirit Collective was born, where we're at today, and some of the work that we are so excited to be doing together. I'll end with some information about how we are trying to tell the story of this work, how we're hoping to measure the impact of spirit, the evaluation and data and research aspects of our work. And I'm happy to take questions before the end, because I know sometimes it's hard to remember things all the way, 45 minutes later. So I'll pause, I'll try to pay attention to time. I'll look to, the team over there to let me know what's in the chat, or if there are folks, because I can't see anybody, if there are folks that have their hands raised or, want to engage throughout. Okay, so a lot. I'm trying to fit a lot in a little amount of time. So to begin, Nichmaichki, Inashwanisha Sophia Taula-Lieras, Talofalava Lo'uingo o Sophia Taula-Lieras. I belong to the Umatilla, Cayuse, Walla Walla, Nez Perce people of what's now called Oregon and Idaho, and I'm also Samoan. I introduce myself in both Umatilla and Samoan because language is also how I bring my ancestors in healing into a space with me. It is one of the many miracles of my life that I'm able to learn and speak Umatilla, given there are less than 20 fluent speakers alive. So I do it as much as I possibly can. And language is really central to the work of spirit. Like I said, I'm grateful to be living, working, playing, dancing hula on Nisenan Maidu lands in Northern California with my beautiful family. I am a mother of a 19-year-old college sophomore who lives in New York City, and a 10-year-old black belt candidate in Taekwondo. And this is Ono, our Basset Corgi and the most diva dog of all time. This is my family here, some of the most important people in my world. And my role here with the Spirit Project began only 3 years ago, but my love story with the Center for Indigenous Health began almost 13 years ago. So I was first trained in family spirit as a home visitor in my own community, Ohlone Land, also known as Oakland, California. And for several years, I was able to do home visiting with families that I grew up with, families that I had known my entire life, and we're bringing in new generations of kids. And thanks to the Center for Indigenous Health, I became a trainer in family spirit. I traveled around Indian country training hundreds of home visitors, supervisors, and tribal leadership in family spirit. And for 5 years before joining the center in this role as a full-time spirit director, I directed the National Center on Training and Technical Assistance for Tribal McPhee, which is a federally funded tribal home visiting program. So this incredible journey continues with the Spirit Collaborative, and most of the time I can't believe that I get to do this every day, and I'm sure you'll get it by the end of my seminar speech. But I can't believe that I get to do this work every day with Chelsea and all the beautiful people around the world that we're connected to. I share these pieces of my story and my identity because they are part of the why I am joining this seminar today and why I'm in this role. And I think that we share parts of when we share parts of ourselves, we invite potential connection to others. So I invite you to think about that as you're listening to the stories that I share today. Your why you're here in this room, on this land, in whatever role it is that brings you here, and what might you be willing to share about your why to invite connection during this time together and after this discussion? Maybe your why is career path and career decisions, or maybe it's something else that's emotional, something that you can't quite describe, something that you feel in your spirit, and maybe words don't quite meet that need, or maybe it's both of those things. So the previous slide that I showed you with all of my beautiful family here, and this one, this slide are my why. So this is a small glimpse into my world of Indigenous ways of being, loving, and playing. This is my world of Indigenous joy, land, ceremony, and healing. This is my father and his legacy here. Just from this past summer when we were on the res, my brother had his naming ceremony and my nephew was graduating from high school. And I really do show up in this role every day because I believe that all of these children pictured here, my children, my many nieces and nephews, and all the children in our Indigenous communities deserve a world that sees them as the powerful and brilliant beings that they are and create spaces for them to be safe, to be playful, and unapologetically Indigenous. I believe that my father deserves to hear his grandchildren speak Samoan and that he deserves the comfort of knowing that they have more time and ways to play than he ever had because he was working 3, 4 jobs at a time. I believe that this family deserves to heal like all families from loss and grief to end cycles of harm initiated by many, many attempts at colonization and erasure, and to really support our children to be exactly who they want to be. So that's my why. So good. I just want to stare at this all day. So my story and my why probably make it pretty clear why I ended up at the center. The Center for Indigenous Health here at the Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health was founded in 1991 by Dr. Matu Santosham, based on 10 years of incredible partnership with Southwestern tribes like Navajo Nation and the White Mountain Apache. The center focuses on strengths-based solutions that honor and promote tribal sovereignty, and we do this work in partnership with communities to advance Indigenous well-being and health leadership to the highest levels. For over 30 years, the center has braided Indigenous cultural strengths with Western and Indigenous sciences to improve health and well-being across the lifespan for Indigenous communities. And in doing so, we are all really working towards our vision of thriving Indigenous communities worldwide. Our center is led by this rock star team. I personally work with our executive director, Dr. Allison Barlow, on a weekly basis on things as specific as our spirit core messaging and also as big picture as the future sustainability of our international work. Dr. Warren has found time in his international travels to visit some of our partners, our spirit partners in Aotearoa, New Zealand and Australia. And I really find the access to and support from leadership to be unique in my career and critical really to the good work that's happening. Allison knows the people and the heart of the center. She's been here since its founding. She knows family spirit, and she also knows our Spirit International family. The center's 4 directions of focus include policy and advocacy, education and training, research and evaluation, and wise practices. So as a center, as a whole, across all of our programs, we really advocate for policies that support Indigenous health equity. We offer scholarships to foster Indigenous leadership in public health. We conduct community-based research to develop and evaluate interventions, and we are actively trying to share our findings to empower Indigenous communities worldwide. So I work closely with the Wise Practices core team, in addition to the spirit work that I do. And I work really hard to share a lot of the lessons that we're learning through spirit, what it means to train and support implementation of an intervention created by the center outside of the United States. So that's been really cool to be able to integrate into the center work in that way. So our core work is co-designing culturally grounded health interventions with tribes in the Southwest. We've got regional hubs in the Great Lakes and Great Plains and 29 states here in blue, in addition to the communities that I'm going to talk a lot about in Australia, Canada, and Aotearoa. So the blue states here are where we have partnerships, and the center logo indicates where we have a center office. And across these offices and our remote team, which I'm a part of, we have over 350 staff and faculty at our center, and 80% of our employees are Indigenous. Now, in the 34 years that the center has been up and running, they've expanded across the 29 states and 4 countries. They have trained 4,800 Indigenous health workers and students, and our programs continue to serve about 25,000 people per year. So I really wanted to share this impact slide. So within the center's behavioral and mental health programs is the Family Spirit Program, an evidence-based and culturally tailored home visiting intervention that is delivered by community-based health educators as an Indigenous solution to supporting caregivers during pregnancy and early childhood. Caregivers gain knowledge and skills to achieve optimum development for their children across the domains of physical, cognitive, social-emotional, language learning, and self-help. This in-home parent training and support program has been designed, implemented, and rigorously evaluated by the center in partnership with the Navajo, White Mountain Apache, and San Carlos Apache tribal communities since 1995. And it's now replicated nationally and internationally with training, TA, and curriculum materials managed by our Family Spirit National team. And I'll share more about replication shortly. Family Spirit is the first program to provide clear evidence of the effectiveness of paraprofessionals as home visitors to impact behavioral and mental health disparities. The use of Native and Indigenous paraprofessionals is essential in reservation communities where there are a shortage of nurses and definite cultural barriers for non-Native home visitors and service providers. The rigorous evaluation that I spoke of earlier includes 3 successive RCTs and have shown proven impact in the outcomes listed here. As a longtime trainer, home visitor, TA provider for Family Spirit, I also see this slide as the why tribal communities want to become a Family Spirit affiliate. This is what they use to talk to their tribal leadership about why it would be important to bring Family Spirit into their communities, because these are the outcomes that they're hoping to see. And if folks are curious about publications and things like that, I can share all that, if requested. The Family Spirit core curriculum consists of 65 lessons taught from pregnancy to age 3 and cover all of the content listed here and much more. Couldn't fit it all there. 65 lessons is a lot. Used to be 63, but it is comprehensive. It covers from 0 to 5, and I'll talk a little bit about the additional curriculum modules in a second. But just wanted to give you a second to read some of the content that is covered through the curriculum. Let's see, these are the additional curriculum modules that address emerging needs and specific family circumstances. So this includes lessons now through age 5. That's called Family Spirit Thrive. That's a newer module. There's content specifically for infant feeding and family nutrition, what we call Family Spirit Nurture. That can be a standalone module that a community asks for, or it can be incorporated into the core curriculum. There's content to support caregiver mental health, which we call Family Spirit Strengths, and also most recently content to promote early childhood language development, which we call Language is Medicine. So this slide really represents to me, when I became a home visitor in 2013, all there was the Family Spirit Core, and there were at that point 63 lessons. What this slide represents to me is how well the Family Spirit team listened to the sites that they were training. Because what happened in the years of replication is sites would use the curriculum and then they would be like, there's this thing that is missing from my particular community. These are the things that my families that I am working with are coming up against that I would really appreciate tools, resources, information to better sit with these families and meet them where they are. So these modules that have been developed over, I wish I had the date, but I think it's really only been in the last 5 to 7 years, really to me speaks to the responsive nature of the Family Spirit team and how well they have listened to their affiliate sites about what is most needed in the communities that they're serving. So as of 2012, Family Spirit began replicating their work that was started in the Southwest with Navajo and White Mountain Apache. And they began replicating the work by opening up training and TA to Indigenous communities and organizations across the United States. So these are the most current and active replication sites in the United States. I think what a lot of people find interesting is that Family Spirit has not only been shared with Indigenous communities and organizations, there have also been multiple requests from non-Indigenous serving communities. Most recently this year, a Somali community in Minnesota, a big training was done there, thanks to some of the relationships that longtime trainers had built with the community. And I think it just speaks to the adaptability of the curriculum, how it's grounded in culture and family, why it speaks to other non-Indigenous communities. And so that's what you're seeing there in the yellow are where we've done trainings with non-Indigenous communities in the US. Okay, I think this is where I wanted to pause for the first time and just open up for questions, reflections about anything that I've shared so far about myself, the center, or Family Spirit.
I don't see any hands in person. I can't see online, but if there's not anything online either, I think you're good to keep rolling. Thank you.
Sounds good. I don't think I see anything online either. Okay. So in 2022, 10 years after the replication of Family Spirit began happening across the United States, and 27 years after the launch of Family Spirit in the Southwest, our center and the Family Spirit team dreamed real big. And they dreamed so big, they wanted to join the Build a World of Play challenge that was put out by the Lego Foundation in 2022. And so the journey of Spirit began with a very hopeful, beautiful proposal that we called Reclaiming Indigenous Children's Futures Through Home Visiting and Intergenerational Play Spaces. We were joined in this dream by 3 international institutions, the University of Otago in Aotearoa, New Zealand, First Nations Health Authority in British Columbia, Canada, and Bachelor Institute of Indigenous Tertiary Education in the Northern Territory of Australia. And with our forces combined, our dream proposal and dream team was awarded one of the top 5 prizes in this really incredible, unbelievable kind of global award. And the partnerships really came about the way in a very organic way. There were people that had made connections through the center through the years at FNHA. We have a staff member, a faculty member, Dr. Chris Kemp on board, who is Maori and has great connections in Aotearoa and connected us to the University of Otago, where I think his mom might have worked at one point. And then the Bachelor Institute, I always forget that part of the story, but it was also because of a connection that someone had made in previous years. And that is how we brought everyone all together for this one of a kind work. And so initially the ideas were to share the family spirit curriculum because we felt it had been so successful here in the United States. And there had been years of other countries, other Indigenous communities across the world reaching out and asking for family spirit. But this was really meant to be the first time that that kind of international sharing would happen. And because it was Lego and the challenge was to build a world of play, this very cool component of the project emerged, which was to develop intergenerational nature-based play spaces in as many of these communities as possible. So all of the sharing and learning and building and dreaming is being done with our Indigenous, First Nations, and Aboriginal partners listed here. And I'm going to get into a little bit more about the community sites that they've chosen to join our collective. So we're generally known around town as the Lego Project because I think it's kind of obvious that's how we started. Lego is fun, it's play, it acknowledges our funder. But pretty quickly, our global leaders decided we needed our own name, one that we came up with that was really a representation to tie us all together in the work and the dreams that we were hoping to do. And so that's how Spirit was born, supporting play and intergenerational relationships with Indigenous traditions. And it's really stuck. Now people call us the Lego Spirit Project, Lego. I mean, it's all kinds of things, but I think as we've grown literally in size, I think when we started, it was just 8 international folks we were working with at these partner sites, sorry, 6, and then our own center team. We're now into the hundreds across the world. We just realized that this work is so much more than home visits, which are important, and play spaces, which are amazing and fun and beautiful to grow. It has really become a beautiful family, a learning, doing, and loving collaborative, and it just keeps growing more integrated. The new projects that are dreamed up and we work to bring to reality, it's just turned into so much more than I think the folks that wrote the original proposal could have dreamed of, and it's been really beautiful to watch that unfold. This is our vision, and I'll just say before I read it that Spirit is many things. It's a thoughtful, deep, it's playful, it's a joyful journey that we're on together with partners across the world. And you really don't need to look any further than our vision statement to get a sense of how deep and thoughtful these storytellers are, because if you can believe it, this is the shorter, pared down version of the vision statement that we actually have. And there was a lot of talk about, most vision statements are supposed to be 2 to 3 sentences. And there were big discussions about who made these rules and why do we have to follow them. That's kind of a constant across the collective. Whose rules are these? Whose ideas are these? And lots of creative, imaginative ways to do things differently. So our vision across our collective strives to reclaim our languages, philosophies, and ways of being to restore intergenerational well-being for Indigenous peoples and our planet. We envision a future in which all children are born into a world that knows them, sees them, and embraces them. A world where they thrive in spaces that honor their joy, their potential, and their brilliance, grounded in identity, language, land, and ancestral knowing. A world in which caregivers are supported to nurture their children in safe, beautiful communities The health of the planet will benefit from the success of this movement. And I wish you could meet all the brilliant Indigenous and ally folks who make up this family. You would absolutely understand how this reflects all that we talk about regularly and all that is happening across this project and beyond. And when I tell you that these people across the project are making plans and partnerships into the next decade, I promise you, I am not exaggerating. A lot of my role as the director is to support that shine and those ideas while also trying to keep us on something that resembles a timeline and, finishing all these brilliant ideas that bubble up from our project. Um, our group is also guided by our collective values that we've decided on, which are generational knowledge and culture, place, land, connection, and sovereignty and solidarity. So these are the communities around the world who are working towards this vision, and I'll do my best to share some of the stories about them, keeping track of time. In the US, we have what we call the Seven Spirit Fellowship Sites. As I shared earlier, before the LEGO Award, Family Spirit had a large network of affiliates, trained home visitors, supervisors that were already connected, already regularly engaged with the Family Spirit team. The fellowship program was open to current and past affiliate sites and really any agency that was interested in being part of this collaborative. So we ran a whole application process and we ended up with a diverse group of current affiliates, but we were also able to include groups that had never had Family Spirit before. Our sites include tribal and county health programs and a midwives collective, which is absolutely new to the Family Spirit world. This group has received core and thrive trainings. They're all implementing Family Spirit, and they're all at varying stages in the place-based planning process. They're a super loving, dynamic group. They meet monthly. They talk about all kinds of implementation things that they're going through, and we expect to learn a lot from them really about home visiting in the US. The Fort Defiance team, I'll call out special here because they are unique. They are considered our demonstration site and fully funded by the project. So their staff is fully funded by the project. And they have managed to do unbelievable work in just a short amount of time. In the last year and a half that they've been implementing, they've already enrolled 73 families. And it just doesn't seem to be stopping. They continue to have to hire new home visitors to meet the needs in the Fort Defiance community. And I actually have a site visit. I'm leaving tomorrow where we're meeting with the Fort Defiance team and Kaboom, our place-based developer, their community advisory board, and we're getting really close to landing on a timeline and some of the big, beautiful ideas that are coming out of the community for their play space. In Aotearoa, New Zealand, we have 4 partner sites, Toi Matarua, Tukotahi Kokiri Marae, the University of Otago as the coordinating partner, and Te Hoara Whanau Services. Our team has been able to visit all of these sites in the last 2 years, be in community, learn about the work that's happening, see the beautiful lands, and honestly, the presence of Te Reo Māori, which is their language, their cultures, their worldview, it's in everything that these partners do. One example story I wanted to share is from Toi Matarua, the northernmost partner. They have developed something they're calling the Kainga Ko framework. And in its current format, the framework will reorganize the family spirit lessons into a lesson sequence that aligns with Māori knowledge systems and with the goal of developing caregiving skills in a way that elevates natural tools and resources, linking their families and communities to play and place. So it's just been a really beautiful thing to watch evolve, where they originally thought they were going to make some like pretty significant adaptations to the lessons. As they learned more about family spirit, they were just like, no, we just need to kind of fit it into these knowledge systems that actually speak better to our communities. So that's really exciting to watch that. And then to Kotahi Kokiri Marae, I'll share a little bit more later about the community design-led play space that centers Māori cultural elements. I'm excited to show you their concept design. In Australia, we have 4 main partner sites, although you'll see more here because there's others that are kind of on the horizon being discussed. But I'll ask you take a look here and we'll try to remember this area because it'll come back up a little later. Our team has visited all of the sites over the last 2 years, and except for one, first 2,000 days here in New South Wales. And they hosted the first Australia Family Spirit training this past April in Brisbane. So a team of us went to do the Family Spirit Core and Thrive trainings in Australia, which was very, very cool. The story I'll share from Australia is about Children's Ground. Children's Ground is one of our partners. They actually partnered with an organization called Orange Sky because of this work, and they receive a mobile laundry truck with washers and dryers that now operate 5 days a week in some of the more remote communities, which just has done amazing things in terms of accessibility for families. It's free. And they really speak about their key goal being reducing skin infections. The truck that is visiting also offers employment opportunities for community. It's encouraging conversations about health and learning. They have big ideas about how it might also serve as a platform for other services to be able to connect with community members, to bring, to meet the families out on country in some of the more remote areas. And they're even finding ways to incorporate play into the wash trucks where the kids are washing dolls' clothes and hanging them up to dry and having conversations about health practices. And it's just a really beautiful, cool thing to see. And I'm hoping on one of our future visits, we'll get to ride along or be present for some of that work that's happening. And last but not least, British Columbia, Canada, our closest international partners, just an hour's flight for me here. Through our site visits and our annual in-person global gathering, which happened this past July in BC, we have visited 4 of the 5 sites. We have yet to get to the northern region, Haida Gwaii, which is way up there, and are trying to plan that in the next year. But BC has some advantage to being the closest international partner to our work. And so we've completed 1 in-person training for Family Spirit. We've done another virtual one with them as they brought on new home visitors. And we've been able to actually train one of First Nations Health Authority staff members as a trainer of Family Spirit to build the capacity of their work so that they can do those trainings themselves moving forward. And so instead of telling a specific story about BC, I actually have a video to share with you all where they are sharing about the work in their own voices. It's funny, I can actually see the screen, so I can see that it's working. All right, let me make sure this is. Okay. If you can't hear it, let me know.
My name is Sabrina Brigada. I'm from Splatcheen here in the Secwepemc territory, and this is Leela Singh. She's 9 months old. So my children go to the daycare here, and Tina had approached me at some point and asked if I would be interested in being a part of the Family Spirit program.
I guess I got pregnant and my daughter is part of this band, so that's how. And then Gina reached out to me and asked me if I wanted to participate in the program, and she kind of explained to me what it was all about, how she comes to my house, gives me little lessons on how my daughter should be developing, and it's going really well.
Family Spirit Project has brought so much culture and that passion to connect to the roots, connect to the elders, help confidence with the mothers that I work with in what they're doing with their babies, knowing where they're at developmentally, and knowing that they're doing a good job, knowing that they have support in the community and that they have somebody from the community supporting them and standing behind them and cheering them on.
One of the recent things that I learned is about her oral health, that I'm supposed to be using a toothbrush now and toothpaste because her teeth are now growing in.
One of the things that I had constantly struggled with was breastfeeding. My oldest one, I didn't get to breastfeed her for very long. It was probably less than a month until I had to give up.
In the long run, I think it's gonna benefit her a lot because I didn't get to grow up in my culture, but she'll be able to grow up in hers.
So we're sitting in our cultural yard right now. A lot of our traditional foods are here. We want to enhance that with QR codes that tie that back to language. So being able for children to interact with that is our goal. We also would hope to see kakuli space here. It is what they would consider a winter house. So it's just a space that's dug out. It's very ceremonial. There's ways that you enter, and that it's just a very, the stories are told in there. And
I'm at a point where like I want to incorporate as much culture into my life and my family's life as possible, because I want my children to grow up proud of who they are, and I didn't get that.
I think it's very special and very empowering to the communities that get to be involved in such a program, and I just hope that they reach out to other communities and just spread it, because it's such a good program and it's helped me so much.
It has been such a great honor and such a huge passion project that I just feel like an immense honor to be able to share and learn from everything that we've gathered from Johns Hopkins and how they want to see this spread into community. And it's just been really uplifting to not just the participants that really gone out, like I said, into the community and made such a huge impact already. And it's just our first year.
So this video was not actually made by our media team. It was actually made by FNHA's media team. Oops, sorry, that's early. And I think it's just a really beautiful story. And what we hope one of our communication goals across the project is to have many videos like Splatcheen's story. But grateful to have this one to share with you. Sabrina, the mother, one of the mothers in the video, is such a bright light. And I was thinking about her preparing for this, but also because when I travel to Fort Defiance this weekend, I will wear a ribbon skirt made by her. And so that is one of the things that has happened because of her participation in the project, that one of our lessons is around goal setting, and she went through this process with Gina about this dream that she had to develop her own sewing business, and she's doing it. Many of us were able to receive gifts from the Splatcheen community, and they were ribbon skirts made by Sabrina. So that was a really beautiful connection, and something that I'll keep for the rest of my life. Let's see what else. So those are the communities that we work with across the world. One of the things that we talk about a lot across the program is the definition of home. How here in the US, before Spirit, before the collective and the global work, we often talked about home being more than just the physical space and place that a family resides. That really true home visiting, responsive home visiting, is meeting the families wherever they're at. And we have been learning a lot about that through the work across our global partners. For example, in Aotearoa, home also means the marae, which is the communal space. You've seen some pictures of it throughout, and being on the land and learning. Same with Australia, they call it being on country, and they do a lot of on country learning with their families. And I'd say for BC, one of the biggest discussions we've had around home and like implementing home visiting, there were lots of discussions about the importance of having group and community spaces in addition to home visiting. And there was a lot shared with us about the impacts of historical trauma on their communities, and how groups actually felt more safe and more in line with how they would receive information, from workers in their community. So when this opportunity first came to me, I was surely excited about all of the international home visiting work, but it really was the place-based component that made me kind of dance and be excited. Like, I mean, so much of play has felt like an afterthought in my own personal and professional lives. I've never heard of it in this way in terms of the home visiting world and field. And it just felt like such an amazing opportunity that through this work we can and really should have always been centering play, not just for the communities that we serve, but also for all of us that are connected to this work. And when it comes to play, we do it as much as we can in every place that we're together. And I've got a video to share with you, but yeah, it really is central for all that we do. And this video that I'm going to share was filmed throughout our second in-person global gathering last summer in Bantua, which is many, many time zones across the Pacific Ocean. And this is where the Aranda people are. They are the traditional owners and caretakers of the land, and they have been for the last 30,000 years. It's in the Northern Territory. It's that spot that I asked you to take note of when we were looking at the map. And this video was created during that time when we were all gathered together. Lots of things were asked of people that were being interviewed, but what really stood out was how much people were talking about play and what this project has meant for them, how diverse our perspectives are, and how critical play is to the health and well-being of our communities, and how play uplifts all things like language and our cultural teachings. So I'm going to share that second video now.
For the play program, I think it's all about the spirit inside you and the spirit when you go out into the land. And the land is our teacher.
Well, this is around the country. This is Bandwa. Bandwa is Alice Springs, and it is the home of the Aranda Nation.
So the foundation of our project was building spaces for families to play and also expanding the concept of play.
This has been about this sharing of culture with First Nations people from all around the globe. The opportunity to create nature-based play spaces that will be real sites of learning. We forget how to play as adults.
When I think about play in our communities, it's really natural. Play enables our youth to dream big, have big aspirations.
Play is the best part of children's learning, because they get connected to families and they get connected to language and culture. And when you take the kids out bush to the place where there's no reception, they sit down and learn. Yeah, and listen to us.
Play is intrinsic in the way that we grow our children because it can teach them so many different lessons before they're even old enough to learn lessons. It's about the relationships, it's about how to treat people and how to care for the land and how to care for yourself and how to care for others, and that can all be learnt by play.
Play is everything for a child. Play is everything. It's every day-to-day life for the kids.
Play is more than just in a playground. Play for us is a state of mind. It is about creating space for our parents to be able to engage with their kids.
And I think the real beautiful thing about intergenerational play is that it paints this beautiful picture of joy.
When you're watching kids play, you're watching them actively learn in that moment. Where our kids aren't on screens all day or inside, they get back to play, which is how they're meant to be. And in a world without colonization, it's how they would have been.
We talk a lot in health about inequities and disparities, And the fact that this project leads with the term play is really novel to me, and I think is helping us shift how we think about healing.
To have a program like this, to have family spirit, gives a lot of hope and gives us an opportunity to develop something that can really turn things around for our families.
How do we return our kids to play and to being who they are as Indigenous children? And that means to be powerful and to be connected to who they are.
There's a whole nother world of change beyond the world of play.
I was on mute. I get to work and play with all these folks on a regular basis. In fact, we have our biannual virtual gathering later this evening. It has to be in the evening to cover all the time zones, where all our partner sites are joined together to share site updates and play together. And this crew gets quite competitive, so in most of our games, really. And it's always a sure bet for fun. I've talked about the play spaces as a major component of the project, and I'll just share about a few, but there's quite a few in the works right now. The creativity, the dreams for culture and language and land integration are really, really amazing. So Fort Defiance is our demonstration site here in the US. They'll be the first fellowship site and likely the first global site to complete a play space. We're thinking late spring, early summer next year. And the partnerships and community-led design process has been really beautiful to watch. This is an AI rendering of some of the components that the community's been dreaming about. They're centered in Navajo culture and teachings, which is where Fort Defiance is located. And also I shared about Tukotahi Kokorimarai in Wellington, Aotearoa. This is one of the concept designs that they've allowed me to share. They have a Tanifa slide that winds down the hillside beside the marae. They have sensory elements like plants that children will be able to touch and cultivate, and what we've heard them call their tiny forest. They're getting lots of buy-in from other partners in New Zealand, like Zealandia, which is a beautiful bird and wildlife sanctuary park. They're at an exciting phase next week. They're having the blessing of the land. And it's going to be amazing. The young people that are connected to their work will each say a karakia, which is what we would maybe call a prayer, to support the blessing and cleansing of the land before they begin building their play space. It's also going to have this tiny forest that they've talked about, wetlands, and something called papakainga, which is the housing. They're creating housing developments, which is not a part of our project, but just the beautiful kind of synergy of this all happening at the same time has just been really beautiful for the Kokori team. And they expect their place to be completed by August of next year. All right, I feel like I'm getting really close to time. The other piece I'll just say really quickly, I mentioned earlier, is that so many ideas have been bubbling out, right? We thought it was home visits and we thought it was play spaces, but so much more has come from this collaborative. We have a storybook series that has been started. When You See the World is the first book in that series, and it really speaks about their collective relationships and communities across the project. And so that is something that will be done in the early part of 2026. Our illustrator for this book is Navajo, but we really expect that there will be a book to come out of each of the countries, maybe more, knowing these overachievers. Other writing pieces, we have like a writing accountability group that has a growing list of academic paper collaborations that they're working on. And if you can believe it, poetry compilations. At the last time I counted, I've read 7 different poems written across the project based on this work and based upon our in-person time together. Really beautiful stuff. This was not something we originally knew what was going to happen, but these are the play kits that have been born of this work. They've launched here in the US with our fellowship sites. They include some of the toys and information you see here. There's curriculum in it about child development, with suggestions for families and home visitors and how to use the play kits. and other partners are certainly interested too. And so we're really excited to see in other countries how things might be similar or different based on how they build the play kits, and more to come on that. Oh my gosh, I have like no time. Okay, so last, I guess, is really about how we're working to tell the story of spirit, to really measure the impact. And this beautiful graphic here is our theory of change, which we call Soil to Harvest. Our collective work we really see is about nourishing the soil for family transformation. And we do this by cultivating the soil, which our soil is our growing community of Indigenous leaders and practitioners. Our relationships really enhance our capacity to serve families. The families are like the seeds. They carry that potential, the wisdom, the strength of many generations before them. They grow in this soil that we take care of. They demonstrate strengthened connections to community, to culture, to land, to language, to traditions. We, our theory is that the caregiver and youth well-being will improve, that the land itself becomes a place of learning, of laughter, of cultural connections. And as these relationships deepen, systems really begin to reflect the power of Indigenous early childhood and family development. So we see it already, we see the harvest, but we look forward to so much more, all the beautiful outcomes we see in the families that are involved in our programming. And we believe that that will in turn create new seeds, these families who will then influence their communities and really nourish future generations. We have some cross-site evaluation questions that really get at why these matter to us. This has evolved since their proposal. We originally thought that Hopkins would have like one centralized evaluation led by us, and boy, did we learn a great deal about how much each community wants to work and do their, work in their own context. So they're leading their own evaluations while also contributing to the global impact stories through these questions. And some of the methods we are using are progress reports, a social network analysis, regular yarning or interviewing, and a systems modeling approach. Whew, okay, I knew I was going to get to this and just be rushing at the end. So I've shared some of the stories. Here are some of the reach numbers. These are the numbers that one of the few things that LEGO really asks us to track through the years. So the top graphic is our current reach as of April. We will have updated numbers in the next month or two because they have a big report due in the next week. And then these indicators at the bottom are current, that we have 17 sites trained in family spirit across the world now, not counting our already US sites. We have 11 of those sites that are actually implementing family spirit. And then we have 8 play spaces that are in progress at some point or another along the continuum. And the 5 BC sites will be added to that list starting in the spring. They're just kicking off their play space work. Okay. I really sped through that last part. Yeah, I'll pause here. I don't think there's too much more time, but open to.
Thank you so much, Sophia. I think let's give her a big warm round of applause. I learned something new from our center and our project every time I hear our leadership present, and it always just warms my heart. It honestly makes me so emotional just as an Indigenous person. So I think if anyone has some, I see some really nice comments online. I can't completely read them in the chat, but I just saw them pop up. If anyone wants to share any reflections that they've had on the session, we don't have a ton of time, but maybe just 1 or 2. And if you have any lingering or burning questions, I can take them if you have time to stay. Yes, Dr. Page.
Thank you for a wonderful presentation. Unleashed a series of memories. My daughter was born in Fort Defiance. She was brought into the Hopi Nation and through a ceremony in the Kiva. Second Mesa, her name is Simana. But more importantly, what I learned, I still carry with me. My experience for 2 years in Chinle, and the Navajo Reservation was extraordinary. And I found that I learned more than what I actually gave at that over those 2 years. And I learned how to basically calibrate the situation in terms of having working with the medicine men, working with the at that time the TB solarium in Albuquerque, because we found that if we did not embrace the Navajo culture and the Hopi culture, we could not ask for any reciprocity in embracing us. So I thought it was an experience to be shared. One quick question, or it's really not very quick because we talked about it every day for 2 years, and that is acculturation, and how in terms of the family spirit and what tension, if there is any, between retaining the culture, the indigenous culture, without disruptive elements to it. Now, of course, I'm going back quickly in history, but I still think it's an issue. I haven't been on the reservation in quite some time now. So just your quick thoughts on acculturation and how you deal with that issue.
Yeah, that could be a whole seminar in and of itself, right, Dr. Page? But it is a good question, and I think each of our partners could tell many different stories from the communities that they support. But I think a lot of it is an individual journey, right? I think what Family Spirit aims to do through these, beautiful health educators is really create a space of safety for families to talk about whatever culture, assimilation, acculturation, what kind of traumas their families have lived through that have impacted their ability to have access to culture, language, ceremony, traditions. Really, the work of Family Spirit and Spirit as a project overall is to create these safe spaces for families to be able to have these conversations so that they don't feel isolated in their experiences. And you have a wide range, I'm sure you saw yourself, Dr. Page, of people's access to things like language and ceremony. Someone who grew up on Navajo their entire life with folks that had Dene as their first language, that's a very different lived experience than someone like myself who grew up in Oakland, right, where I didn't have access to language, but I did have access to folks from over 200 tribes in my community. So I think what we really work to do is create this sense of safety, this sense of community, these places of belonging, so that whatever journey, however the journeys look for each of these families, they know that they belong however they show up and however they want to move through, and how they want to raise and grow up their children. I think you heard some of that in what our partners had to share.
Thank you. Okay.
Yeah. I see one question about adolescence from, I think, Kara. So yes, actually there has been, and the reach table that we shared it's 0 to 6, but we also have youth that we work through the project that are up to 17. And that is not something I think we necessarily foresaw, even though we talk a lot about how you're never just treating the baby, right? You are treating the entire system and family around them. But there are a couple of our projects in Aotearoa specifically where they have a lot of programming for adolescents, and some of the beautiful things that we've seen in terms of the adolescents engaging with the younger children and families. We are actually talking about in our impact report that's going live very soon. That's one of the products that's coming out. So yeah, that's a great question.
Thank you so much, Sophia and Dr. Page, for your question and online. We're at time, but I'm happy to stick around and answer any questions or just chat, and I'm happy to pass them along to Sophia. So thank you so much, and thank you again, Sophia.
Yes. Thank you for having me. Katsuyao, Fafitai, Tsalalava. I hope it came across how much I love this work and all the people in it. It's always a big deal to share about it because I love it so much and I love these people, and just understand the absolute sacred and critical nature of the work that we do. And we can't wait to come back and share more someday, if that opportunity arises. So yeah, thank you for having me.